Hey guys, what's up? It's coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides Witch and I don't know if you can tell or not, but I'm a little bit sick, so my voice sounds a little bit off. It's just off because I'm a little bit sick, but I don't think I'm a lot sick, so. Because I don't feel that terrible. But I'm definitely not feeling as good as usual, and I'm a little bit congested, but we'll just have to see how things go. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's no reason for me to even think about staying home or anything like that. It's just getting hit with something like this right now after everything else I've been dealing with. It's just not something I really want. Like, I really want to be feeling better, not worse. So, it's not really great. Also, getting out of the house this morning, kind of later than we really would have wanted. I thought I could have gotten out earlier, but that didn't end up happening. So, I don't know. I don't really know what happened. But we're not extremely late. I think we'll end up getting to work at a fine time. And it's all right because we realized that in order to get my time the right way, we don't really have to be that crazy about it anyway. So, it is what it is. Anyway, so, trying to think. The other thing I wanted to mention is, because I had been saying on here for a while, I'd been saying, oh, I haven't even listened to any of the stuff from the 13 mini. I hadn't even listened to it. This thing could have been messed up this whole time. And at some point, I did listen to it. I forget exactly why or what prompted me to do that, but I did, and it sounded great. So I do know that the microphone is working properly. Yeah, what else to mention about that? But yeah, I just hate these kind of things because, again, my work is my voice. So when you have I usually do get throat kind of issues. It's kind of frustrating because I really hate when my voice is off. It's like, no, I don't think everybody would necessarily. But the thing is that I can be very grateful for is, again, I have not gotten a cough. I probably was just talking about this, but I haven't gotten a cough in over, I want to say it's been like a year and a half or maybe longer. And the only things that have gone on during that period was my switch to a semi-carnivorous diet, as well as walking at least 3 miles a day. But, I mean, the watch says 5. I don't know how much I believe that. But it's like 3 miles of dedicated walking, 1 mile 3 times a day spaced out. I'm sorry, I just have to keep doing that, sadly. 1 mile 3 times a day spaced out. And yeah, that's what I do. And then I also do some walking, obviously I have to just during my job. So it gets to be a little bit higher than that. The watch says 5 or 6. I don't really believe that. I think sometimes it probably registers me just moving stuff around with my arm as walking, and I don't really believe it, so I just don't believe it. That's my personal opinion, but that the whole point is I do walk pretty consistently. I probably walk more than most people, because I see it. I see it at my job where during people's breaks, they just sit in their car. They just sit in the car. They don't, you know what I mean? So it's yeah. Is what it is, but you try. You try. I mean, I feel like people should try. I don't know why they don't, you know? Kind of crazy to me that more people don't. I mean, I know that people are lazy, but I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So, but anyways, yeah, it's a shame. I don't know why more people don't. Do we think it's an awareness issue or it's an understanding issue? Because I don't know, maybe some people aren't even really taught that, like, how important walking even is. I don't really know. You know what I mean? Like, maybe some people just genuinely don't really know. I mean, even sleep. Like, I don't know that it's within many humans' capacities to really take that stuff seriously. I don't know. That's kind of my impression of it. Is it's especially in like the modern age. It's like there's so many other things to do. Something I guess I've kind of been thinking about a lot recently is like being in the shoes of these people who, and I guess I was one of them for a time. It's like you think about video games and just how like they're pretty inefficient in terms of how good the activity is, because you're not exercising and you're stationary. And it's just like, honestly, a lot of times video games are relatively frustrating. They don't even always really provide like a true joy, you know? But people get like addicted to them, and you just think about like how, this is what I was thinking about in regards to it. There are a lot of people, and I would go as far as to say most people have basically no understanding of, or a completely biased understanding of, just like how the world functions and operates, and what would be fair or efficient and what isn't. Because in particular, a lot of Americans, we are like really inefficient as a country. We use like excessive amounts of resources and electricity for the amount of people who live here. It's extremely wasteful. And I mean, part of that's cultural. People like having big trucks that they don't need. Part of it is, I don't know what, it's just ignorance. But America's extremely wasteful. And a lot of people, and GPT is always so firm about this, it's like, well, respect people. Don't force them to do anything. Respect people's autonomy. The problem is, though, when you have that extreme freedom, if you have a country with that much extreme freedom, I feel like, removing some autonomy is critical past a certain point. I mean, if we know and if we've seen that we just can't trust people's judgment, we have to start to think about these things. We have to start to ask these questions. And I think even if GPT is against it now, I think that in the future it might not. And I also think that humanity in general, as time goes on, will begin to question it more. For now, obviously, yeah, humanity hates when I bring that up, and humans hate it, and they get so upset and sensitive and offended about it, and they can't imagine a world where they wouldn't be allowed to be greedy or wasteful or lazy or indulgent. I mean, people love to be evil, essentially. They want the freedom to be evil. But what I was about to explain is that I don't think, because this is the main problem. Let me explain the main problem. Most people can't even quantify things. They can't really see that what they're doing is wildly inefficient or evil. Like, they can't see it. They don't know it. They can't see it. I think most people just vaguely think that if they can do something and get away with it, then it's fine. Like, I think, I could be wrong. As sad as that sounds, like, I do think that's how most people work. I don't think most people can quantify an action that they make into, an objective numerical value that can be cross-compared to compare, like, okay, well, how efficient is this? How wasteful is this? Should you even be allowed to engage in this behavior or not? So, yeah, that's kind of where we get to with these conversations, is I notice stuff that people just can't or don't notice. And that's obviously like a problem and an issue. It's obviously, that's just what it is. It's just no good. And I've talked about this, like, because if you don't even, like, I feel like some of these people, if you locked them in a room and you could show them and they were, like, forced to understand how bad everything they were doing was, and it really just got pushed on them, then you might actually see, like, a lot of progress in the world. Like, my idea for that is basically like an inverse TikTok, where TikTok is not used for entertainment, but it's actually used for, like, the opposite. So your algorithm would be based on information that you need to see, not information that you want to see. So in the case of a person who, let's say, like, they're lazy and they're really blind about, how a behavior they do is not good. Let's say they leave the sink running while they brush their teeth, for example, because, I don't know, that's just like some really lame basic one I can think of. You'd go on your TikTok and you'd start seeing a bombardment of videos talking about how you need to shut the sink off when you brush your teeth. You'd have people who eat out a lot and eat a lot of fast food, and then their TikTok would get bombarded with a bunch of TikToks about, like, showing how terrible fast food is, showing how showing how terrible, like, the fast food is and how all the waste that it causes. When you eat out, it's not just that the food's unhealthy, it's that you're wasting all this paper and cardboard wrapping everything, and the extra emissions and wear and tear it puts on your car, having to make an extra stop. So you see what I mean? Like, the TikTok, as a theory, it could be used in a very good way. You could really bombard people with what they need to see, not what they want to see. Because right now what we're seeing is the extent that the human mind gets what it wants. And that's what we're witnessing. And we're seeing that really has some dark repercussions. It has some very dark repercussions into how horrible people can get and how, off some of these children are, who are growing up on such a terrible platform. I mean, it was already kind of bad before, children growing up on the internet in the first place, But then now you have like internet on TikTok, which is really fast, and it's like you go down all these rabbit holes quickly. You know what I'm saying? I know what I'm saying is getting a little bit incoherent, or at least it feels that way. It's a little bit difficult to speak because of my congestion, but I know the point is probably here. Like, it's pretty obvious what I'm saying, and I actually think it's possible that at some point TikTok could change to be something like that, where, you know, you're using the AI instead of just to feed the lowest part of you, which is like, I'm bored, I don't know what to do, cater to me, show me things that comfort me. Instead of that, you just be forced to constantly come to terms with what you're dealing with, you know? That's like the obvious, and it's a very good, it's just a good thing. So I do think at some point things would change. You know, right now we're still at the stage in humanity where it's all about predation. I don't even know how you would say that. Predation? Would it just be predation or predation? I don't know. We're still in the stage of humanity where it's like treating humans as prey and like basically trying to make them unhealthy for the sake of profit. We're still there. We're still in the greed mindset. And there is a question as to whether we really will evolve from this point. I mean, there's definitely a timeline where corporatization of things continues to spiral, and it just gets crazy, you know. There is like a arc of that happening. And then we eventually just like destroy ourselves or something. Like, I don't know. Easily it's a possibility. But I'm talking about, you know, the good timeline if humanity actually evolves in a forward direction. I genuinely think we would see that change at some point, where it would be like an inverse algorithm, where all the algorithms on YouTube, on TikTok, on everywhere, there would be some kind of regulation where they couldn't operate for money or profit. They would have to operate on the basis of, again, like educating the user to expose them to blind spots or flaws with their behavior or mind. And since all of them are going to be like that, it's going to be impossible for the human to try to get out of that and just cut to entertainment, because none of the platforms, it's not going to be allowed. You know, that's really how we're going to get somewhere, because eventually people would do it out of boredom. You know? Out of boredom, even if it's a bunch of uncomfortable information, they'd eventually go on the platforms and just get re-educated about themselves. But I think the problem is now we don't know enough objectively to implement a program like this, because there's still a lot of debate about like diet and about just a lot of stuff. There's so much like debate. There's not a lot of clear, like objective, um, just like things. So I think really it's going to be once we have more of a true merger with tech, where the tech again can like analyze your organs and your blood, and it can say, oh, you need more vitamin B12, you need more B6, you need more C, you need more vitamin D, and give us these exact measurements for those things. That would really be the point where it starts to get good, because then you can have extensive data not only on an individual person to make better judgment, but on perfect data on society as a whole. Because in the past, when you try to have data for these things, it might be incorrect, it might be incomplete, because it's not really based on an intricate surveillance system. It's just based on maybe like surveys, or whatever one person is able to jot down if their job is like to keep the data together, I guess. It was never comprehensive enough to where we just know that the data is correct, period. Like, it's right, because it's literally, we have people hooked up to machines, and we're harvesting all that data, and we're already getting there. We're already getting to the point where they're already going to have a lot of data to comb through once there's an AI powerful enough to. And that will be able to lead to a pretty fundamental revolution in how humans are able to really fix things, because we've just dealt with such incomplete data before now. And it means our plans are imperfect. And this is even when you start to get to, how you could actually see something like a planned economy work a little bit better, because you could have perfect data. Because in the past, that's one of the main problems with planned economy, is like poor judgment calls and poor planning. But what is interesting to note, planned economies are exceptionally good in the beginning, which really, to me, what that shows is that the potential for it to be a better system is there. For the people who say it will never work, I think is incredibly short-sighted. I do think that once you have a surveillance state, once you have perfect data to analyze, and you have perfect AIs to take that data and calculate. And of course, no AI is going to be perfect, but if you have a team of the finest and wisest humans, and they all have AIs to double check everything, I think you're going to be getting to some better results than just like a standard private market. Now, the private market has its purpose, and I guess it's needed in some capacity, mainly for innovation and things like that. But I'm saying that the interest and the understanding of a planned economy, I think in 100 years it's going to be very different. Even now you're kind of seeing like more and more governments kind of lean in that direction, because there are certain advantages, even in the sake of greed. I'm pretty sure that, I'm not going to be able to really, explain this very well, because I don't remember the details, but I'm pretty sure with this Venezuela takeover that Trump's doing, they're kind of doing that, where they're doing some kind of a I was about to say some kind of a thing. I'm sorry I'm explaining this so wrong. I think they are doing some kind of like a state-controlled money thing with the oil, or like they want to. And that's like America choosing to do that. You know, the most like pro-capitalist, whatever. Like, so that's what I'm saying. Like, these things, I think a lot of it is just kind of like signaling, you know, people do. But, anyways, yeah, I mean, I think it's clear that, like, for anybody who really thinks that a like unregulated capitalism is really the end all be all, I mean, that to me that just seems ridiculous, because you can't have a humanity where there's more of an incentive to be greedy and bad than there is to just work a good honest life. And it's not really anything wrong with, I mean, honestly, you wouldn't even need a planned economy. You just need regulations to keep capitalism young, you know, to keep it intact, because you really can't argue that pre-capitalism is like the same as the post-capitalism that we're living in now, essentially. I don't know that calling it in my opinion, honestly, still calling it capitalism is not, I mean, a lot of people use different words for it, like a corporatism, basically, because it's more of like a corporatist. I mean, the value is not really in capital anymore, it's actually in corporations, right? Like, it's not, money is not like in cash as much as it is in the stock market, as far as I know. Or it's like a lot of the richest people, a lot of their money is not just in like completely liquid cash just sitting there. It's in a bunch of stocks, usually, you know, the one they're the CEO of or was the CEO for the longest period of time. You see what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, that's, I think that makes sense, because most of the capital is not, it's not money anymore. It's like a corporate thing. It's like corporations. Most of the money is just sitting in corporations. So the corporations have the control. And that's not really capitalism. It's just not. It's when you don't have the proper rules in place, and then capitalism collapses and becomes like a next part of the cycle, which is actually more of a reversion back to pre-capitalism, you know, when you had more of a hierarchical system. It's interesting how that works, because, again, without regulation, a fully free market after a few generations will just become a monarchy again. So, I don't know though, these things are complicated. They're complicated matters, because in a lot of ways it's like, yeah, I mean, democracy and capitalism, they really did they brought about the greatest era in recorded history. And that was a direct result of overpopulating and sorry, I'm trying to think. It was a direct result of overpopulating. I don't remember what I was going to say, but my fault. I'm just not 100%. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I didn't think this was going to be a good episode. I'm pretty happy with it, though, like, all things considered, so. But my expectations were very low going into this one. Not just because, like, I'm kind of sick, but I mean, that's a decent part of it. So my expectations were really low, but I actually think this was like a fairly decent, all right episode. But yeah, I mean, that's the problem with, like, you have to keep, but then you have to think about too, like, could there be a better system than capitalism? And I was always kind of interested in that, like, what would be next? I personally think that at some point there will, not everybody really agrees with me, but I think that eventually some kind of a planned economy would surpass, you know. That's kind of what I think. Like, I think there really should be something past capitalism. There should be, like, and I don't mean like the post-capitalist, because that's more of a regression. But what I mean is, what is the next better system? Some people are really, like, religious about capitalism and freedom and thinking that that's the end all be all. And I'm actually, if that's the truth, I'm okay with accepting that. So I'm not trying to say, like, that it's bad. I mean, maybe, like I said, I just think that the private market, you have to have regulations, and you have to prevent it from becoming the way it is now. You have to have a lot of rules and things like that. But good rules. Right now we have relatively bad rules, like when it comes to regulations on the auto manufacturers that has made cars worse. So, there's a lot of examples of bad regulations. Anyways. But I'm saying I'm also open-minded. Like, I don't think I'm like some people who they would go on basically like this semi-religious tangent about how no other system will work as well as capitalism, period. And then that's that. Like, no, I do think that we should be trying to conceive what and if there is a better system, And I don't really think that just because, like, the Soviet Union failed is really, I don't know how much that really means, because, again, there was probably a lot of people who wanted that thing to fail. It's not like, I just don't know. I don't know. So there's like a lot to it that you have to keep in mind. So I would say I have an open mind about it. I want to figure out what's best for humanity, And if that is a free market, like, I'm fine with that. It's just I'm more curious about seeing how these planned markets would play out. That's what I'm really more interested in, because to me that's like, we need to kind of start experimenting a little bit and seeing. And like I'm saying, maybe the Soviet Union didn't really handle it well. Like, I don't know. Even now, Russia's not really being run well anyway. Like, how can you judge like a system off of if it had ineffective implementation? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that we can just say, oh well, Russia did it and it was terrible, so now, communism's terrible. But it's like, well, what if Russia wasn't really that competent? Or what if there was some injustice and unfairness about it, and it was just kind of like doomed? Like, what if there was corruption in the Soviet Union? I don't, you know what I mean? Like, you don't know these things, and well, you probably do know. I'm assuming I'm a little bit onto something there as well, because then You see how like China's had more of a hybrid design, and it's been to great success. Where it's semi-planned economy, but certain areas are kept private, um, and it's really panned out for them. So I don't know. You can't. I just feel like you can't. A lot of people just get into either like, oh, well, the world would be better if it was this way. It would be better if it was this way. I don't see things in that. Like, I'm trying to figure that out, because I've heard so many people say that, oh, the world would be better if things are like this. And then I believed that for a while, when I was a teenager. But then I saw a different perspective, I don't think a lot of people get to that point. I think whatever they had heard, they're going to stick with whatever they've heard. And that's kind of that, They're just going to stick with, like, what they've heard. Which either is, like, if they're in left-wing politics, they think that's going to be better. Right-wing, they're going to think that's better. But for me, it's like, I'm not really sure what. Like, I think we have to try to figure this stuff out, So, yeah, just that's really where I'm at with these things. Like, that's really where I'm at. So, and I just think a lot of people aren't really ready for that conversation, and it's very frustrating. Because it's one way or the other, But that's what I'm thinking about, and what I'm interested in is seeing, like, okay, well, let's try to really figure out what's best for humanity. Let's really try to get to the bottom of this. Let's look at, we're going to have a plethora of data to look through. I don't believe in privacy. Anyway, no, I'm just saying that to be inflammatory. But it is kind of true. I mean, and I've brought this up to people before. It's like so many people, they're so like aggressive about privacy. And it's like, okay, well, what if everybody submitted their data and we didn't have privacy, and then you could like solve world hunger? Is that worth it? And some people would say no. Some people would rather have people dying or have us like, and to me that's crazy. Like I don't understand why people, I don't even think people know why they value their privacy. I mean, we all die anyway. Like it's really not, who cares? Like, we're not perfect. Everybody does weird things. I've done weird stuff. Everybody does weird stuff, and we'll die eventually. Like, I just don't really understand. People will make fun of you. People are agree with you. I don't really get what the big point is, But everybody's just so addicted to privacy. It's an addiction, and they need to be stopped, including, most importantly, rich people. Because privacy's, but it's like a commodity at this point. It's mostly a commodity. It's mostly a commodity. Anyways, it's been Schla. Actually, yeah, I'll just do it. It's been Schla, and now it's time to buy Schla. So, see you, Schla.